In here. I think we are recording, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we can definitely start this. So let's get into everything. I'm gonna get my screen pulled up. Give me 2 seconds here, guys. If you guys see me looking one way or the other, I have two monitors. I want to see you guys, but I also have to see the presentation, so I know what I'm saying to you guys, or at least I know what I'm saying, but in order. And we'll go from there. So let me get this opened up and get my screen sharing going. Cool. Can everybody see this all right? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, Matthew, I see it. Okay, perfect. Thank you, sir. Awesome. Well, we are going to get into the setting system here today. So we're going to cover things like pipeline, process, the psychology behind appointments that actually show up. And really what a setter does is if you have, or when you have, or hopefully you currently have leads coming in to you guys, whether it be through organic or paid media, it doesn't really matter. We love when people book appointments with us, but that doesn't always happen. So we capture their information, name, email, phone number. Hopefully, we know why they opted in or are reaching out to us. And the setter is the person that goes out and actually books the appointment onto either your calendar as the owner. Maybe you're doing it for yourself, booking your own appointments with people that are opting in. Maybe you have a whole team that's doing it. Really, it could fall under any category here. So we will go into all of that. Now, little background about me. I actually got into sales in 2014 and never looked back. So went to college, dropped out 3 times, and sales just kept calling my name, and it has worked out very much so in my favor. So I started online in just selling really in the information space in 2020. 2014 was door to door. I did that for 4 years. I was selling lawn care in Buffalo, New York during the winter months. It's really easy to sell lawn care when there's 8 feet of snow on the ground. But that worked out great. I did that for 4 years, moved into a sales manager role there. In 2018, I got into selling high-end retail. The average order value there was $250,000. Then in 2020, I moved into the actual online high ticket space. And that was great. I was in a production role from 2020 to 2022, generated over $5 million in revenue for the company I worked with. Then in December of 2022 is when I actually started building my first setter team. So in the first 60 days, uh, from scratch. I mean, this company had absolutely nothing. It was a holistic health company. We generated over $1 million and had 10 setters on the team. So we grew fast, and everything that I'm going to cover with you guys today is exactly what helped build that and all the other teams that I've worked with through the last 4 years really inside of building out and managing these outbound sales teams. I've been with Evan for the last year and a half, helping with his team, and really. Yeah, like I said, if any of you guys talk to Marco, then he has been training with me pretty much every day for the last year and a half, and some of the other setters that are on the team as well. I've also worked with really early stage startups to Jay Shetty to Cole Gordon, if you guys know who that is, and kind of everybody in between. I like to tell people that I've worked with everyone's guru's favorite guru, which I actually hate saying, but it makes me laugh when I say it. Now, really, the way to look at things is deals are definitely won or lost before the closing call happens. You know, we have three things that can be controlled by a setter, which is going to be show rate, intent, and the frame of the call. And really, what that means is the show rate is if somebody's going to show up or not, and if they're going to treat it like a real appointment that matters to them or just something that sounds interesting to them. And that kind of leads into the intent as well. We want to know when they're getting on that call if that person's here for a solution or if they're just curious about getting more information, because those are two totally different types of prospects. And then that kind of falls into the frame as well. Is this person here to solve a problem, or is this going to turn into a therapy session? Because they're once again two different things that lead to two different intents and can cost a lot of money either way. Closers, or people that are just taking the sales call, if you're just an owner, take a lot of credit. But a setter is really important part of business that can help really the closer and really what the closer inherits. Once that prospect lands on a calendar, like show rate, intent, frame, those things can already be locked in. And it's really hard to get those things locked in on a closing call, because if they're 20 minutes late because they forgot and are finally getting back on, they have low intent, and they're just here just kind of for more information, that person wasn't ready to be on a calendar yet anyways. So getting through things today, and what we're going to cover is the ideal setter pipeline. So that's where every lead lives and who owns the next move. We're going to get into the three tie downs, and these are the commitments that decide whether somebody shows up and really takes action on that next call. We're going to go through the new call set flow. So this is really the flow itself once we're on a call and what happens and why all these tie downs work, and our daily priority list for a setter on your team. So this is how a setter is going to run their day to day in order. So got about 45-ish minutes here. If you guys have a setter script, amazing, pull it up. You'll definitely want to mark some things up. If you don't have it, totally okay too. But let's jump in and have some fun here. So, oh, I just saw somebody said you're from Buffalo too 4 minutes ago. That's awesome. So yeah, originally from there. I've been in Nashville for the last six years though. Can't do the cold anymore. So the ideal setter pipeline, this is really where every lead lives and who owns the next move. And really, there's a lot of automations that can go into place too to make your setters day to day easier. So we have our intake, dials, follow up, booked appointments, and then what happens with the closer. So we'll cover most of those things, if not all of those things here. Uh, Now, the whole system in one page, I look at this as this is what the setter pipeline or day to day looks like. When a setter starts their day, the last thing I want them doing is questioning, what do I do next? Because that just makes the ability for momentum and consistency to become really hard for them because they're jumping around from place to place trying to figure out what to do. But really also I want to have a repeatable process. So if I know they're lacking in one area, how to help them actually get better. So when we're looking at the intake, that's when a new lead opts in. And if you have a team, you want it to round robin to that team. You can weight the round robins depending on the CRM you use. If you have reps that have been on your team for longer or shorter, or if it's just you taking these calls, then it just goes straight to you. Once that lead opts in, an auto text is going to fire out. Really, I'll cover this in just a sec, but the first 5 minutes of a lead opting in is no doubt one of the most important parts. And then a setter dials. After they dial, it goes into the automation side of things. If that lead doesn't answer, we want to have different deal stages, which are kind of like the I don't want to call them follow-up stages because we have actual follow-up stages, but if a lead doesn't answer, you want to prioritize how we're still reaching out to those leads. So we have our new leads. Then the next stage would be less than five dials or under five dials. From there, it'll be 5 to 10 dials, and then 10 plus dials, which I consider like a leave graveyard. And I'll break these things down a little in a couple minutes here too. But we want automations in place between once you hit five dials, it's going to automatically move the lead to the next stage of 5 to 10. Once you hit 10 dials, it's going to automatically move to the next one. Then we have hot follow-ups. These are, or I'm sorry, all follow-ups. So we have hot follow-ups, which is somebody that we think can book an appointment in the next 2 weeks. Warm follow-up would be 2 to 4 weeks. Cold follow-up would be 4+ weeks. And when we think we can get them on an appointment. Now, the two differences between these dial stages and these follow-ups is all of these dial stages automatically move. The actual follow-up stages, the setter or yourself has to manually move them inside of there after having a conversation with them. And then we have outcomes, which would be like sets booked or no-show rebooking. If you need to rebook somebody that no shows, then we have closed sets so we can get attribution, and then of course disqualification. Once that set is booked, though, it moves over to the closer pipeline. This is just a super generic closer pipeline. There's a lot more deal stages than this, but call scheduled, call confirmed, follow-ups and rescheduled, and closed or lost. Now, that don't take this closer pipeline for exactly what it is. There's definitely a lot more that need to be inside of there. We have one more pipeline stage as well, which is called engaged. So I usually put that in between. If I'm putting a priority list, it's new leads, less than five dials, or I'm sorry, new leads, engaged, then less than five dials, 5 to 10 dials, so on and so forth. This engaged list is anybody that is going to reply to any text or emails or have called you back that have missed. And your CRM needs to manually move that lead inside of there because that is literally a lead raising their hand and saying something to you. So at any stage, unless it's like a lost stage, it needs to move to that engaged stage inside of your CRM because that jumps in front of everybody else. All the systems that I run this on and CRMs, HubSpot, Go High Level, Close, it works on all of them. You can do the automations on every single one of them. Really, the tool itself doesn't matter. All CRMs, some are better than others in little things, but they pretty much do all the same things and have the same features. So the good news is you most likely can set this up for your team, no matter the CRM that you're using. Now, within the first 5 minutes, that lead opts in, going to round robin, going to send the auto text. The setter is going to dial. If the setter does not dial, and actually, let me back up to this auto text real quick. This is usually something to fish for engagement. We're not trying to book an appointment from this auto text. We're just trying to get engagement from that prospect to keep the conversation going. So when we do actually talk to them on the phone for, 5 to 15 or so minutes, they already know a little bit, at least who we are because we've introduced ourselves, or they've answered a question that we've had for them. The whole idea is what we want is to get people raising their hand. So we'll ask pretty much an open-ended question on this auto text to get the engagement so we know really who to reach out to first. Once that auto text goes out, though, the setter is going to dial as soon as possible. Really, speed to lead is huge. You want the text firing off ASAP, like within the first minute, a couple minutes. Ideally, you want to call a lead as soon as possible. I see there's a pretty big stark difference between calling them in the first 5 minutes, then the first 20 minutes, and then after 20 minutes, every single section or time frame, you see the answer rate drop significantly. Within 20 minutes, though, is ideal of where you want to be able to have your team reach out to that lead. Then, if they don't answer after that setter dials, we're going to enroll them into a workflow or a sequence. It's all the same thing, just depends on what your CRM calls it. And what this is 7 days of daily text and email to once again push for engagement so we can get that appointment or a triage booked to see if we can actually help this person or not. So the biggest thing to think about in here is no lead's going to wait on a human. We need to be able to get a message out to them ASAP. The automation keeps working every single day of the week, except Sundays. Every CRM will have like exclude these days type of thing. You don't want to reach out to people on Sundays. The FTC doesn't like that. But the human dials and the machine remembers. So there's always consistent outreach going on to a lead. And then, like I said, if any reply comes from that workflow, for example, it's going to move it back to the top of the priority list for the setter. Now, the list itself that sorts itself out, these dial stages, these move automatically on dial count. You can do this in every single CRM that I mentioned. Our under 5 dials is the fresh leads with the highest energy. Ideally, you want to be able to make 5 dials within about 72 hours to a lead. Then we have 5 to 10 dials, which is next level of priority, and then 10 plus dials, which I consider a leaf graveyard. Now, to me, a lead's really never dead unless they tell you to, leave them alone or F off. But once we get to that 10 plus dials, the answer rate significantly drops, like a ridiculous amount. I don't really have our teams waste time on calling those every single day. But once they do get moved into that 10 plus dials list or really get to that 11th dial, then automatically enrolls them into a long-term nurture, which is text and emails, typically over about 180 days. That doesn't mean it's a message every 180 days, but it's outreach happening to them over 180-day time frame. So those are our dial stages, and then our follow-up stages, which are kind of covered with you guys already. We have our hot follow-up, warm follow-up, and cold follow-up. The setter or yourself is going to manually move the lead to here. Now, instances where this could be relevant, a hot follow-up might be something like, hey, this person's a great fit for whatever reason. Maybe they're out of town. Maybe it's a Friday. They're not available till Thursday the next week. I try not to book appointments or have our team book appointments more than like 3 days out. So I would rather move somebody to follow up and maybe even just set a triage for myself before I'm setting an appointment for them to have an actual sales call. Warm follow-up is, hey, good fit, but they're just a little bit more interested. Cold follow-up is, we probably could help them, but really might not be worth getting them on the calendar, especially for maybe at least in the B2B space, if they maybe they're a startup or they don't fit exactly what we need in our qualifications, but they have great intent. They just don't have the backing to get them there. I still want to be able to follow up with them. I still want to be a point of contact for them, but I don't want to spend too much time with them, but I still want to keep them relevant. So really a follow-up stage is just a promise with a date attached. It's not a parking lot. If there's no agreed next step on the call, then really you're just putting leads inside of here to do nothing with. Once we get to that graveyard, though, not a deletion. Like I said, automated text and email nurture for 180 days. so we can eventually get them to respond and get them back into that engage list where they're raising their hand, and then we can help them from there. Now, when we get to set booked after the call has actually happened, a lot of people think that the call finishes there, but most people people couldn't be more than wrong. Once the set is booked, your CRM should automatically create a deal, whether you're booking through your CRM's internal booking calendars. You use things like Calendly, Once Hub. All of these things can zap back to your CRM and automatically create a deal. You absolutely want it to do that. So once that set is booked, moves into the call scheduled side of things. As a setter, you want to be able to help confirm these appointments if you're setting them. Absolutely, a closer on your team should also be reaching out. Um, Closers are great because they drive a lot of revenue, but they can also be very lazy. So make sure you're on top of them to make sure they're confirming their own calls and working with the setter to help get calls confirmed. And then we have the disposition, which is either a closed deal, a DQ for whatever reason, a no show, or a reschedule. Now, if a lead that you have set as an appointment does no show or reschedule, we want to have automations in place that route back straight to the setter's pipeline so they can reconfirm and rebook. We like to keep the closer's calendar available for new activity rather than trying to chase things. So if a setter booked that appointment originally, they can stay on top of getting that person rebooked. Or if you have high volume of leads or high volume of calls that are booked every day, even if it's an auto booking that no shows, I want the setter to be able to reach out to that as well. Really, once we add that extra touch point, close rate ridiculously increases on that next call. So even on auto bookings, I like that too for high volume. And then the close set is definitely a disposition that's needed rather than just closed, or your really your custom properties in the CRM need to relate back to setter attribution, because it needs to track every set that actually is closed or is DQ or so on. So really, setter owns the lead until the closer marks one of these dispositions. The booking itself doesn't actually end the job. That person showing up does. So that's really the first part. Getting into the second part now, we're going to get into the actual process. So we're going to get into the three tie downs. These are the tie downs that we like to have on every single setter call. The offer itself doesn't matter. The system itself is the same. The words just change a little bit. So we have a commitment to solution, we have a commitment to action, and we have a commitment to us. These are the three tie downs that we like to have as non-negotiables on every call to really help ensure that a prospect shows up to the next call. So what a tie down actually is just a verbal agreement that the prospect makes out loud at any specific point of the call, specifically targeted though. Each one raises the psychological cost of backing out later, and really helps pre-handle a lot of objections before it ever reaches that next call. It makes it a lot easier to handle a lot of these objections earlier in the front end, get the buy-in, and then get them onto a solution call, not a, hey, I don't know if I should do this type of call. Then we also have micro tie downs. So these are just little things and little micro commitments that the prospect agrees to on the call. Things like fair enough, or does that make sense? All we're doing is prepping them to, and this feels like used car salesy, but it is true psychologically, is keeping the momentum to condition them to continuously say yes. The as used car salesy as it sounds, the psychology behind it still makes sense and works. Now we're only doing this if we can help them, of course. So that's how I justify it. Now we have our three structural tie downs: commitment to solution, which happens pretty much right after the call starts. Then we have a commitment to action, and then we have commitment to us, and then it leads to the set itself. These first two tie downs, commitment to solution, commitment to action, have nothing to do with our business, our offer, what we could do for them. It's all about the prospect taking ownership over the fact that they want these things. They want a solution. They're ready to take action. Not until this last tie down are we asking them to commit to us being the ones able to actually help them. As we go through, every tie down runs the exact same formula. So we want to identify which is you digging until you have the real problem and the real outcome, never the surface complaint that somebody has. I talk to all my reps and say, finding really what somebody's real reason behind is something is usually like an onion, especially in the beginning of a call. If you ask somebody, "Hey, what had you interested in opting in?" If you get answers like, "Yeah, I thought it was interesting," or "Yeah, it could be helpful," that doesn't help me help them in any way, shape, or form. So I need to dig, I need to peel the layers back like an onion. So this is what they want and why does it matter right now? That's identifying where that prospect is at. Then I'm going to clarify and label. That's the next step to a tie down. So I want to mirror it back in their own words. So just to make sure I'm on the same page, you're wanting X because it means Y. Does that sound accurate? Does that sound about right? That is me clarifying and labeling and understanding where they're at. I want the prospect to know that I understand their problems potentially even better than them, and they feel heard. At least in the B2B and B2C space, um, people so they isolate themselves. Being a business owner, it's easy to isolate yourself. You don't have that many friends with the same problems that you have. So being able to talk with somebody about this can be tough. So when I can have a setter that can articulate exactly what they're feeling, how they're feeling, why they're feeling that way, it really makes that business owner feel heard and feel understood. And that's exactly what I want them to feel on those calls. And then the last part of the tie down is the actual commitment. That is us asking for the agreement, and then we stop talking, and we go from there. Now, when we're inside of a tie down, when we get weak answers, maybe like a label without a verbal confirmation, which would be a yes, something like a uh-huh, or yeah, sort of, or I think so. These don't count as really getting that tie down done. That is really some kind of resistance from a prospect. I need them to agree, and I'm not going to move forward on a call until I have that yes actually out there. Now, going through the tie downs, the first one being the commitment to solution. This is the prospect agreeing out loud that they want this problem solved. So it has nothing to do with our help yet. It's just, are they actually open to the help at all? That I think is huge, where especially a new setter or somebody that just starts making their own outbound calls to book their own appointments is immediately they want to know, "Hey, if I could solve this for you, do you want it?" Like, it has nothing to do with us right now. I want to remove the resistance totally, and I want that prospect to take accountability. So this happens really right after the gap opens, before anything about us or our business even comes out, and really before a lot of the business details on the prospect. I want their buy-in first, and I'll cover that in a second with you guys. People don't argue with their own conclusions. Like, once they say they want something solved and they're committing to that, them booking a call really just makes sense because they're aligning themselves with who they told you that they just are. Unless they spend 15 minutes lying to your face, which doesn't, it happens sometimes, doesn't always happen, then you're going to have a good call. You're going to know you're setting them up for success. Now, what that sounds like is just confirming that they're open to getting help with their exact challenge that they just described, and we're framing it with their own words. And if you book curiosity instead of intent, that curiosity doesn't show. What I mean by that is that prospect needs to know why they're getting on the next call, and there needs to be an intent to solve a problem. And if they know that there's a solution to solve that problem, the odds of them showing become a hell of a lot higher. So that's our first tie down. Then we move into our second tie down, which is our commitment to action. So this is the prospect actually taking really accountability to the fact that they're ready to get help. So the prospect's going to confirm that they're in a position to act on it now. So whether it be time, energy, readiness, this tie down specifically flushes out a lot of objections, whether it be the timing, whether it be the cost of something. This tie down's huge, and I want it to flush out objections. And this really happens at the end of a gap, which I'll cover with you guys. The gap is going to be the whole reason somebody buys something, because that's the transformation that they see at the end. So this tie down happens once they see what solving XYZ problem allows them to do, whether it be in a personal level, whether it be on a business level. It's the same premise. So what this sounds like is, do you feel like you're in a position, maybe in your business or personally? So do you feel like you're in a position in your business where you're ready to get the help that you need so you can have XYZ? So I'm in when I'm saying XYZ, I'm filling in the blanks of what they've already told me that they wanted, that they told me that if they had a solution to XYZ problem, it would give them this great thing. So everything falls in order here. So just having them pick a time slot is definitely not a commitment to an action. A commitment to action is them taking accountability to the fact that I am here, I am ready to solve this problem, I want to solve this problem. An objection surfaced here gets handled while you're still talking to them, and an objection that survives to the closer call has had days to handle it, harden it into a no. So anytime we avoid objections or we get scared by them or we falter to them, that's just more of a reason for them to not get our help at the end of the day. So I want to take these things on surface level. So once they get onto that next call, they're once again in that mind of solution and not just talking about the problems. I know just about every single one of you that has ever had a sales call has known who that prospect is that just gets on, wants to talk about the problem, but doesn't seem to really care about the solution for whatever reason. Having this extra 15-minute call is such an easy way to be able to turn that problems conversation into a solution conversation. Now, there is a neutral pivot, which is what I like to call when somebody gives us that objection. If they deflect, if I ask this question, like, hey, do you feel like you're in a position in your business where you're ready to get the help you need so you can have XYZ? If they deflect to cost or program details, we don't dodge it here. We don't start pitching our solutions and why we're so great to them here. We stay neutral. We anchor the answer to the call that they're going to have eventually, and then we reconfirm the commitment here. So if I ask that tie down, hey, do you feel like you're in a position in your business where you're ready to get the help you need so you can have that freedom, that consistency, whatever it is inside of the business? And they're like, yeah, potentially, but depends on what it costs. I'm going to say neutral and stay with them right there and say, yeah, for sure, totally makes sense. It has to make sense for your business. But do you feel like you're actually in a position where you're ready to solve this? I'm putting it back on the fact of I want them to commit to solving a problem, not just talk about what they could potentially buy or invest in, because that doesn't help them right now. I need them to agree to the solution. I need them to agree that they're ready to take action. Then we get to our commitment to us, which is our last tie down. And this is going to be us finally really taking ownership over the fact that we can help them. So this is an explicit confirmation that if we can put a plan in front of them that solves this for them, are they actually going to capitalize on it or not? Really, what this is and the psychology behind it is us getting the prospect to agree that they will buy something or invest into our help if we can give them exactly what it wants. So this is really the final gate and the last thing that's secured before we move into the booking itself. This one's a little bit longer, but probably one of the most important parts of the tie down because or of the all three tie downs, because this pushes them into yes, I would pay for help if it's going to give me everything that I just told you I wanted. So what that sounds like is yeah, definitely that makes sense. And name, I really want you to talk to an advisor on our team just so we can walk you through what it looks like to solve XYZ problem. I guess one thing I'm curious about though is if we do walk you through a game plan that gives you the ability to finally have whatever they said they wanted earlier, XYZ, would you actually capitalize on it? I'm asking them, hey, if we can give you exactly what you want, are you going to do something about it? Once again, this is a big one that will typically flush out the price objection or the cost objection that people might give you on a sales call. Then that's great. It's exactly what these tie downs should do is flush out these objections, which is a double-edged sword because we're getting them to commit externally and then internally we know that we're overcoming any objection before they could even come up on a much longer call, which could waste their time and could waste our time. So this one's huge. And then the closer itself is going to inherit a polite stranger rather than if you skip it, they just get a polite stranger rather than a committed prospect. Um, so on to the next of these tie downs itself. Really, when we ask these tie downs, we're going to get three things. We're either going to do clean yes of, yeah, absolutely, this is what I want, or for sure that this is what needs to happen, or I'm more than ready for this. I have to have this, which is where we want them to be. Then we can get a hesitant or a conditional answer, which is totally okay. We could still get them back to a clean yes, but there's a little bit of reframing that has to go inside of there. An I guess or a sort of or a maybe, these are weak answers. These are not going to help us move the sales process. Move them down our own internal funnel to get them to become a purchaser. It sort of, I guess so, I think so. It's kind of like a yes with strings attached to it. I don't like to advance from here at all. I want to have full clarification as to why they're hesitant here. So I'm gonna have to continuously dig. I'm gonna have to question. I'm gonna have to relabel and re-ask, and get an actual correction to get them back to that clean yes. Or you might talk to somebody that's like, "This sounds horrible. I don't want this at all." At that case, there's 8 billion people in the world, and I'm sure your ICP covers several thousand of them. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But if you just get a clean no, of course, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to still see if I can get them into a hesitant or conditional yes, which I can then turn into a yes, or I'm going to figure out why this person's feeling this way. If I'm not able to turn them into a hesitant or conditional yes or a clean yes, then I'm going to disqualify the lead. And these tie downs are great ways to be able to do that. And it's the same logic at all three gates. Like you always know your next move, especially when you have these tie downs implemented inside of your sales process or setter process. So a wobbly answer shouldn't rattle you mid call. And what I mean by that is when you know you're going to ask these questions, you know the types of outcomes that you're going to get. You either have a yes, a maybe, or a no. So you know how to handle all of them at every step of the way. It's not going to throw you off, especially when you've had 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000 calls like this, or appointments like this, or conversations like this. You know, these are the only outcomes that can happen when I ask this question. Becomes controlling the call so much easier. And really, why these stack commitments work, the solution tie down, commitment to solution, commitment to action, and then commitment to us. All of these three things added together equal the prospect actually showing up. It makes the next yes easier. The consistency does the heavy lifting, not just pressuring somebody. By the third commitment showing up, it's not a favor to us. It's really the prospect doing a favor for themselves because they truly believe that you're going to be able to give them the thing that they actually want. And if you skip any of these, the tie down or the show rate can definitely drop significantly. Now, every call is different, right? Sometimes it's going to be easier to get all three of these. Some calls it's going to be harder. Sometimes you talk to a prospect that is like, hey, you have the thing that I want. I want this thing. That's a double-edged sword. If we book them too quickly, they don't show up. If we go too deep, it annoys them. You have to find the balance. So sometimes I might skip maybe like a commitment to action tie down if they're like, I have to do this now. This is something I've been waiting on forever. I can't wait any longer. I'm still going to reconfirm why they're saying that, but I may not specifically ask, hey, do you feel like you're in a position in your life where you're ready to get the help you need? Blah, blah, blah. So on my teams, the tie down quality is graded on every single call that's reviewed. It's not really a negotiable. It's not like a style point on calls. These are the three biggest things that help actually make a prospect show up and buy on that next call. Now, getting into the next part, this is the new call set flow. So, one structure for the set call. This is really the gap that I was talking about earlier and what that actually looks like. So, the gap does the selling, and then the tie downs do the locking in to getting the commitment to actually happening. So, the set call from start to finish is a new phone call happens. We have our speed to lead. We have our intro, which was, hey, what had you interested in the first place? Or, hey, really, that's my favorite question to ask is what had you interested? Why'd you opt in? And I want this to be as conversational as possible. So once I understand what had them interested, I've peeled back my layers a little bit. Before I go for that first tie down, I have to get the starting point of the gap, which is, why aren't you able to do that to the extent that you would like right now? So, hey, what had you interested? And I'll use it in the sense of Evan, for example, and what we hear every single day on calls is, hey, what had you interested in opting in? And it would be, hey, I want my content to start producing revenue and driving leads, and I want to start building a brand. Okay, great. And why do you feel like you're not able to do that to the extent that you would like right now? I want them to start admitting why they can't do that themselves or why they've been struggling to do that. Now, I'm never just going to say, I know I put it in here, but I'm just paraphrasing for the size of this. I'm never just going to say, hey, why aren't you doing that? Why can't you do that? I always like to add in, why aren't you able to do that to the extent that you would like? Because you'll get the prospect that says, well, I am doing it. But that's not what we need, right? So I want to pre-frame that question to help me give the answers that I need to help move them forward. So why can't you do that now, or why aren't you able to do that to the extent that you would like right now? And then we get our first tie down, and then we get our end of the gap. So why aren't you able to do that to the extent that you would like right now? Well, I don't really know how. Okay, totally makes sense. And do you feel like if you had a solution in place where you knew your content was structured in a way to help give you XYZ, that would be helpful for you? Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be helpful for me. Okay, cool. And like once that actually starts working, what does that give you inside of your business? Well, it gives me XYZ. Well, that XYZ is that prospect's why. That is really the transformation. If you guys know Brian Tracy, he talks about why people buy things. He says it's the transformation that comes from it. That prospect doesn't care who you are, what your business is, who you've worked with, what you've done. They just care about the transformation that they're going to get if they work with you. So that end of gap, that what does that allow you to do? You have to have both sides to really help somebody understand what that transformation is going to be. So then we get the end of the gap. What does that allow you to do? From there, we move into commitment to action, which is like, okay, great. So that means you're able to grow and do XYZ. So do you feel like you're in a position in your business where you're ready to get the help you need so you can have XYZ? After they say yes, I'm going to move into, okay, cool. And like, what is it that you do, by the way? I don't even think we've talked about that yet. I want to be very conversational throughout here. We get their business info, we get their financials, we qualify if we can help them or not. And when I say qualify, there's two types of people to qualify. There's people that are a good fit and they're a good fit for our help, but they're also financially qualified. And then there's people that are still a good fit for our help, but maybe they're not financially qualified, but they're resourceful. So that means that they can get the funds eventually, or I just want to know, is somebody financially qualified or not? Because if they are, great, I can get them into my program now or sell them what I have now. If they're not, doesn't mean they're a bad lead, just means I have to nurture them. I have to put them in my hot, warm, or cold follow up and stay on top of them, get the automations working to keep in communication with them. So I qualify, then I get to my third tie down, which is a commitment to us. From there, we go to the set. So the gap does the selling, which is the transformation. The tie down locks it in from a prospect side of things to make sure that they're actually showing up. Now, like I'm saying, the gap is the engine. So, start of the gap, why aren't you able to do X to the extent that you would like right now? And what that is where they currently are today, why it's on their mind right now, what's their current state, named out loud in their own words. Then we get the gap, which is why people buy, which is what's getting in the way of what that allows them to do. So, what life looks like once it's handled. It's not the fix itself, it's what the fix actually unlocks for them. That's so much more important than just the fix. Because if your prospects are talking to you, they're talking to 10 other people, right? Like you're not the first person that they've seen. You're not going to be the last person that they see. So we want to make sure that we have the why for them and what the fit unlocks or fix unlocks, not just the fix. So commitment to solution is secured as the gap opens. So they've named their problem and they said that they want what they want out of it. And then commitment to action is secured once they've seen the actual other side and they're ready to move towards actually fixing that. Now, if our gap never opens, really there's nothing for that prospect to commit to. Then the setter who skips that gap really aren't setting a call for a solution. They're just scheduling somebody that may or may not really want the help. So that setter needs to really make sure that they understand these things. Now, why this order really matters throughout the flow is the intro surfaces their reason. It's not our pitch. What had you interested makes them open the door from their side of it. Now, the gap builds the motive before any commitment is requested, which is number two. You never ask for a yes if they haven't already justified that yes themselves. Number three is the money talk comes after the commitment act, them actually acting, not before. I want to qualify the committed. I'm not trying to commit the qualified. And this is a good thing to know if I can get somebody that is a good fit, maybe isn't financially qualified. I want them in my pipeline. Pipeline is what is going to make the long-term money. That 1 and 2 call close always feels great, but you're never going to have a better client than somebody that you followed up with for weeks or months and they really want the thing that you have and you keep them engaged, you keep helping them any step of the way until they can get that help. Those are the best clients you'll ever have. They give you referrals. They always pay in full, even if they're on a payment plan, and they always will. They just follow through on the things that they say. So that's why I don't just qualify immediately on these calls, because I want people that I know that we can help, whether it be right now, whether it could be 6 months from now. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to know that I can put them in a position where I can help them now, whether it means our program or not. I want to keep the momentum going with them. And then number four, the commitment to us is last on purpose. So the final thing they say before the calendar opens really is a promise, is them agreeing, hey, yeah, if you give me the help, I'm gonna take action on it. I'm gonna commit to it. I'm gonna do it. So it's the same flow for every offer, every company. Really, the words adapt depending on what you sell and what you do, but the order of asking these things doesn't. Now, getting into the priority list, I know I'm kind of flying through here, but we only have so much time. This is how a setter runs the day to day. So instead of the day running the setter and then wondering what to do, this tells them how to get their day done. So ideally, we want them making 200 dials a day or making 5 sets. Depends on the company. I have some offers that I manage that get 1,000 new leads a month. I have some that get 60 new leads a month. So I'm going to set these KPIs depending on the company itself and what we can do. But some of them, maybe you make 200 dials no matter what. Some of them, it's 5 sets or 200 dials. It just depends. So start of day for the setter, I want them to go in and check any overnight replies to today's set and triage confirmations. A set is for a closer, a triage is for the setter themselves, like a 15-minute call. So then after they check that, they send the confirmations to any sets booked for that day to help with the closer to get that person to once again show up. Don't have this be overkill. If the closer is already communicating with them, then great, let them. Or if you're doing this for yourself, just keep the conversation going, right? Then we send our confirmations for any triages that are booked for that day or reconfirmations that we have to do. Then their first priority is going in and really just clearing the inbox, which if you're going to check for any like workflow responses, that's just you clearing the inbox. Then you'd go in and dial your new leads. After you dial through your new leads, you're going to text back or call any or email back any engaged leads. Really, if I see a text response or an email response, my first action is to always call them. If they don't answer, then I'll text or email them back to any of those engaged leads. And just as a reminder, the engaged lead is somebody that has texted, called, or emailed us back. Then we get into the second priority. Once again, we're going to check the inbox for any workflow responses. Since we have those auto text and auto emails running for 7 days, people will continuously reach out to you. We want to get in front of the people that are raising their hand. I can't say that enough. So next priority is checking for workflow responses. Then we're going to dial our less than 5 dials list. After that, we want to make sure we go in and dial yesterday's and last week's no shows or like rescheduled appointments, because those are people that said they wanted help, but for whatever reason, something came up. Now, whether this be an auto booking, whether it's be a setter booking, that really just depends on the routing. If it's like an auto booking, they go through, maybe you have like a VSL on your landing page after they opt in, and then they just auto book onto a calendar and then they no show. I'll let that round robin to setters and they can reach out to that. If the setter was the one that originally booked it and that person no shows, I want the setter reaching back out to them since they have really a relationship with them. And then if any no-show happens too, I'm going to enroll them into another workflow, which is like the no-show setter workflow, which is really the setter automated texts and emails going out to them to try and get them back on the calendar. Then we have our third priority. Once again, check your inbox for any workflow responses. You'll dial your 5+ dial list. And then if you have any like custom smart views or your hot, warm, cold follow-ups, that's the priority list you want to be dialing from there. Then the setter gets to their end of day. We send out confirmations for tomorrow for sets and triages. We have our numbers tracker that is filled out. This tracks everything from for your daily activity, like your dials, how many connects you have. I consider a connect like a call that lasts longer than 90 seconds. Typically takes about 52 seconds for a phone call to fully ring through from start to voicemail. So I consider a connect a call 90 seconds or greater. So we track their dials, their connects, their sets made. We track their sets scheduled for that day. So how many appointments did they actually have on the calendar to be taken for a sales call? I track their show rate, track their close rate. I track cash collected, revenue generated, and then all of those populate their own formulas and percentages. So I want to make sure that's filled out every single day, and the setter needs to fill it out at the end of the day. And then they also have a pipeline tracker. CRMs will track all the stuff for you, but I don't want my setter to be basically dumb to a machine. Like I don't want the CRM to tell them what's happening. They need to know their own numbers and they need to have a pipeline that they are also going through and managing. So the pipeline tracker essentially is prospect name, prospect email, date of the appointment, who they're booked with, their confidence level to close them, a link to the CRM so they can click right into it, any personal notes that they leave, like their pipeline trackers just for them. So any personal notes that they'll leave, and then really any next steps that need to happen with it. So the CRM is going to track this stuff, but I need the setter to know what's happening with their stuff too. And that is really their day to day. So it's priorities, really not a to-do list. The order is the point. Like when the day gets eaten, the bottom of the list dies first, never the top. So that's why we start with the most active leads first. A reply is a raised hand. It's never going to sit longer than one dial block before somebody goes in and sees who's responding to us. Our new leads and engage replies get our best hours, our best time. The graveyard really gets whatever's left over. Anything before, just the automation's running. And then close clean and open clean. So like confirmations and trackers at the end of the day, just so tomorrow starts with zero figuring out what to do, you can pick up right where you left off. So really the biggest thing I want you guys to think about is setting is a system with a psychological layer. Like we have our pipeline, that's where every lead lives. It has one stage, one owner, one next move always. The process itself is how every call runs, and that's where we open the gap, we secure the commitments, we secure the order, and then the priorities, what we need to do every single day. So 200 dials, 5 sets, work from top to bottom. None of it truly requires like some insane talent. All of it requires running the same system every single day. The talent can be taught, but the system is what's there to help them hit the targets that they have. It becomes a lot easier to know if you have a good hire on your team or not, if they can follow the system and what their inputs actually look like. So really some action steps for you guys when you're done here or when just moving forward. Audit your own pipeline this week. Like if you can't name the stage and the owner of every single lead, that's fix number one for sure. Number two is going to be write down the 3 tie downs into your script or your outreach process. Word them for your business, but keep them in order. Remember, you have your commitment to solution, commitment to action, commitment to us. Rebuild your set call around the gap, why now, and what is solving it actually unlock for you. Make that prospect take ownership on the call. That's probably the biggest thing that I could see here. And make sure that in your process, there's transformation happening. Number four would be hand your setters a priority list, like not a task list. Like the order is the management of what's happening. And number five would be track your outbound dials, your sets per day, per setter. What gets written down gets defended essentially. That's where I'm saying if I know if I have a new good rep or not, it's all about the inputs that they're having immediately. Also, if you're not tracking these things, like that's just insane. It's really humbling to say, wow, my business isn't working. And then you look at your numbers and you're like, oh, wow, I've reached out to 3 people in the last 10 days. Oh, wow, I have all these leads and I have 100 new leads. I've called each of them 0 to 1 times. Like a lot of it comes back to our own accountability. The numbers just never lie. So, want to move into questions. If you guys want me to audit or maybe even build your setter department, go ahead, scan the QR code. But I want to move to questions because we have some time left here. So let's get in and do exactly that. So let's get into some questions. If somebody wants to, I think if you raise your hand, you can unmute, and then we'll go from there. Lonnie, I see you've had your hand up for a minute. Wanted to make sure we got through everything. Let's get through some of these questions that everybody has. So go ahead, Lonnie. You're muted though.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So, I was confused when we did the call. I'm thinking everything is about YouTube, doing audio, doing videos, and it's probably my fault. I was just totally confused on the purpose of your presentation, to be honest. But you're going into beyond the YouTube, beyond the videos, and handling calling with clients that want to buy or we want to sell our products to, right? I mean, I think it took me a little while to understand that.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
So
all right,
YouTube is the mechanism, right? That builds your audience, that helps you create credibility for who you are. But just making content doesn't make money, right? Unless you get you get a YouTube account that pays you. But I would assume that almost all of you are here to build an audience and generate leads and revenue for your business. So once
Right,
those leads and revenue are actually generated, this is what you do with them. So
right, right,
hopefully that answers that for you.
right. Okay, yeah, that's okay. And I agree with that one. Thank you for that. Okay.
Absolutely. Olia, I see yours for those of us. Well, let me full screen this. For those of us who are coaches or service providers without a dedicated setter, what is one part of the process you'd focus on first? That is a phenomenal question. So I would say biggest thing is the organization aspect of it, like making sure everything is set up, making sure your pipeline is set up so you're able to know what to actually do next. And you can, if it's just you, and you can build out that priorities list built in with the front end actions, which would be like, dialing, but then also the back end actions of your sales pipeline. So like closer, like as I say closer, it could just be you too. You can combine those things. So very first thing that I would focus on would just be making sure I have an organized pipeline. So I'm not wondering what to do every single day. Now your pipeline might look a little different. You might also be doing outreach. You could be doing a whole bunch of different things to help generate leads and revenue. So yeah, I think biggest thing would be organization. Then once you have the organization done, then I would start moving into like the consistency of the conversation. And your prospects better than anybody else that's here, right? So you know what they need to hear, you know what they want to hear, and you know what moves somebody to purchase versus not. I would reverse engineer really your call process to make sure you're pre-handling as much as you can. So when you get to that next call, it then becomes a call about a solution and the financials of how they can afford it versus like, yeah, this is interesting versus this is, maybe something I do or don't want. So that'd be like kind of first two priorities. So hopefully that answers your question. If it does, great. If it doesn't, please let me know in the chat so I can go a little bit deeper. But that's what I would say is get everything in order first. Can we get a copy of this PowerPoint? Absolutely. I believe it'll be in school once this is done. So you will 100% get a copy of this. So cool. Does anybody else have any questions? We got like 8 minutes left here. You are welcome. Cool. Here, let's see everybody here. Cool. Uh, Anything else from anybody whatsoever before we get out of here? I'm happy to give you guys some time back. Yes, Jay, I see. Okay, perfect. I see two. I saw JJ first, so Bo, I'll get to you after. Sorry, sir. I saw JJ's pop up on here first. So what do you got?
Yeah, for me it was one. Yeah, the context, the conversation took me a second as well, but once I engaged, knew where we're going, it was helpful. Especially this solution action us, because I think sometimes I have that flipped, where I think trying to get them committed to me and this is why it works and da 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 da, instead of just being like, you need to take action. You just said you need action because you want a result, and then walking through building that up. So then us is more like, yeah, we can help you, and you've already demonstrated that you understand what I want to accomplish. So it's more of a comment, not a question. Just thank you for thinking through that in a different way. That's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like the biggest mistake that people have, whether you're a business owner, whether you run a team that's doing this, is like everyone's like, oh, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best. But everybody you talk to is the best, right? These prospects and like there's so much lack of trust when you're talking to people that like, if this was 2020, it'd be a different story, right? But it's not. There's so much information that's out there, and there's so many people that are telling them you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. And because of that, these prospects they don't care who we are. They don't care who you are. They care about if we can solve their problem or not. And that's why it's ordered in that way. The call has to be about them, especially whether you're a business owner, whether you have a setter team. I want that prospect to feel heard and understood getting to that next call. I want it to feel different. I don't want it to feel like every other call they've got on like this, where they're like, Hey, what's your problem? Oh, do you have the money to fix it? Great. This is why we're so great to help you fix it. Like that, that's never going to get somebody across the line. So yeah, great point, JJ. Bo,
All right. Okay. Hey, that was great.
thanks.
I don't have a lead problem. I have a leak problem, I guess, in my systems. So I'm doing a lot of different things. Obviously, a YouTube channel is my main thing, and then I do virtual events, and I get registrations, and then we use Eventbrite, and then all goes into GHL. GHL sends a Zoom link and the follow-ups. Um, I've had 418 booked appointments since basically January 1st. It looks like we just did a report, kind of breaking out where they come from, which calls of action. Um, I think virtual events. Is there any, instead of just sending the reminders out, and like, is there a method that might be better to get one more show up rate? Obviously, I have to have a better CTA on the webinar itself, but any take on virtual events that you've worked on that seem to be a good process? That'd be one of my things. I have like 20 different things, but that would be the big one, I think.
For sure, for sure. No, great question. I work with a company and all they do is virtual and in-person events. So this is something I have to deal with every single day. Yeah, you're right for sure, like better CTA and so on. But there's a few things. First and foremost is, do you have somebody that's reaching out to people that are opting into the event?
Just me.
Just you. Okay, great.
I do
Um,
have VAs, but I don't know if that's the right, maybe somebody who's trained, right?
mhm.
I could get somebody out of country that's affordable, but they need to be highly trained.
Yep, absolutely. And I think whether they're out of country, they're in country, I think the idea has to be the same. Like they have the psychology of what needs to happen. But really, I think for your case, if it's just you, it's having the right automations in place because there's so much difference between, hey, I'm interested in this event and hey, I'm going to this event. So when they opt in, do they get like any kind of lead magnet or like any like free resource or something to keep their intent going before the event actually happens? Or is it just I opted into this event 6 weeks from now and I forget about it tomorrow?
Yeah, that's more accurate. The part B of what you said. So yeah, I mean like just bolting in. So like if you look at somebody who has multiple calls of action, like I'm doing the webinars or doing the YouTube channel. So basically what you would do is break down a system for each of these things and make sure we're buttoning up as much as we can with automations, right? Obviously, I have a team, but I don't really have a setter. I mean, I
Yep.
probably need a setter at some point because I have really high ticket stuff. On the back end, one is I do SBA financing, and the two is I have a franchise consulting company. So when we get people through the rabbit hole and they buy a business, they get a big fee.
Yeah.
But if I have all these holes, it's like, man, I'm just doing all these events and really kind of spinning my wheels. They all get put into my kit newsletter, so they're getting all touched. But I'm not sending any lead magnets or anything and like really incentivizing them to come. So that's probably the biggest leak right there.
Yeah, I think what would be awesome that could be super helpful. It'll take a tiny bit of time on the front end for you, but honestly, you could probably use Claude with just all of the knowledge you have of why these prospects are here and what you're trying to solve for them, or even just taking some of the language of what somebody sees when they opt in to go to an event. Put that into Claude, have it summarize it, and then say, hey, these are the three outcomes as to why somebody's going to be here. I need a free resource to give them based on these three outcomes. And then it has the background knowledge of you and then why people are here. From there, you have your three lead magnets essentially. What would be helpful then is have a message that goes out maybe a couple days that could be immediate, could be a couple days after. I would probably do immediate. As soon as somebody opts in, hey Bo, saw you plan on attending XYZ event. Really looking forward to meeting you there. Make sure you come with any questions. By the way, what's the biggest thing you're hoping to get out of the event? and then have that be, like probably the top three things that I just said to you. And then it's the easy part of you just sending out that resource. Okay, great. That sounds awesome. Here's a resource that kind of covers that. We'll go a lot deeper on the event. Looking forward to seeing you there. That would be the very first step. Now, dude, there's a lot more steps after that for sure for an event, depending on how far they're booked out. But that would be something that I would do to at least keep them engaged. And then just to top that too, when you have these events, how often do you do them?
Well, this year I was trying something new. I've done like I have one that's coming up this week, and I've this year it's like 22 virtual
Okay,
events.
got it. So twice a month, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's huge too is, and you probably already do something like this. If you don't, I definitely recommend. This helps with the client that I have that they do monthly events, sometimes twice a month as well. It's a lot harder with in person because you're trying to get somebody to go there. But regardless, I'm continuously that opt-in list that I have, regardless if somebody goes or not to that event, when that next event is scheduled, hey, name, we have another event coming up. Notice we didn't get to see on the last one. Would love to have you. What were you hoping to get out of the event when you opted in the first place? And then once again, it gets them re-engaged and then gets them moved along the process. So, man, there's a lot of things that you could do for sure, but that
Do
would
you
probably be.
do you
But
have your own YouTube channel where you talk about this stuff
I don't.
regularly?
I
Oh,
don't.
okay. Well, you should.
I appreciate it.
So we can learn more. Come on now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I did get a time on your calendar next week, so thank you for
Perfect.
your feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah. Come with any questions you have. Nigel, I saw that you had a question as well. Are you still here? Let me look for you. I don't know. Yeah, there you are, Nigel. I see you. Why can't you close with this detailed level in the settings session? Can you go a little deeper on that? I don't know if I know.
Sure. As a I have a small team, and so if you've gone through the process that you described, which is awesome, by the way, and great content.
Thank you.
Um, when you get to the end of that process, why can't you just in the same call? Because it's just me who's going to be in that process, and it's okay. I'll schedule you for a closing. Like I'm not saying the word
Yeah, I
closing,
get
but
you.
for your next session, where I'm going to close them. But why can't I make that call right in that second stage?
I think you can. I've definitely done that before too, but a lot of things have to go right. It's a lot easier if this is what's great about what you guys are doing with YouTube is like the trust is built like with having the right content out there. That's number one. That's a hard thing a lot of businesses don't have is exactly what you guys are creating right now is the trust. So Nigel, you absolutely can do that. I just think a lot of things have to go right, especially on a setter call too. I like to get resources sent out to them after the fact too. I want to reframe the next call so much so where like yeah, I have all these like great commitments and things like that, but I'm going to send them homework too. I want them to do some kind of action first. Now, don't get me wrong. Can you close them on that call? 100%. Your call is going to go way longer. More often than not, though, if you're making an outbound call, this person doesn't know that you're reaching out to them right then and there. So when I say a lot of things have to go right, they don't like they're not prepared for an hour long call. Sometimes in this case, a 90-minute call. I mean, to me, I've been doing this for 6 years. Just in the setting sense, it still blows my mind that somebody will answer their phone and have a 30-minute call with you or a 20-minute call with you. But still, I mean, there's just a lot of things have to go right. So can you? Absolutely. The easy transition would be like, hey, Nigel, if I can walk you through a game plan that gives you the ability to finally have XYZ, would you actually capitalize on it? You say yes. Okay, great. Realistically, like your next best step is to have a deeper call. I don't know about you, but I'm free for the next 30 or so minutes. Are you? I know we're already 20 minutes in here. Are you free as well? Oh yeah, I
Awesome.
could talk for another 30 minutes. Or if that's not the case, try book them for later in the day. Like I always like to have some piece of homework or something that they go through. It's like if you guys came in through just the funnel through the VSL, opted in, and then got on one of our sales guys' calendars, you saw Evan's pre-call assignment page. So that walked you through like, okay, these are the next steps. This is what's going to happen on the next call. Here's some testimonials. Like I would like to have that sent out. So if everything goes right, for sure, man, like hammer it home. But if not everything goes right, don't force a call right then and there. Get it to the next closest time, even if it's the same day. Push them to
Right.
an hour or two later. Just make sure they have enough time to go through everything. There's nothing worse than getting to the end of the call. Closing and the objections on there is a totally different animal than setting. You might feel like you have somebody bought in. You get to the end of the call, they're like, "Yeah, let me find my card," and then they hang up on you. Like I'm sure all of us have gone through that at once in our lives.
Right.
So, oh, you know what? This is great. Let's have another call. I have to go. Like, and then that's it. So I want to set the right expectations. So I don't know if that's a
Got it.
long-winded answer, man, but a lot of things have
No,
to go right.
yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Absolutely. Cool. Well, we're a couple minutes over here. I'm totally okay with that. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything before we get out of here? This recording will be absolutely inside of school, so you'll have it. If you guys need anything, for sure, reach out, let me know. Happy to help, happy to send over any resources. There's a lot of things that I wasn't able to cover. I tried to cover the gist of it for somebody, but yeah, that is what I got. You guys are all welcome. And if you guys ever need anything, just reach out to the team. Let us know. Happy to help. Cool. Awesome, guys. See y'all.